Hi, welcome back to Crazy Chemical Concoctions. I'm Mr. Misek. Today's our last day. We're going to be talking about states of matter and doing an experiment to see what different kinds of states of matter there are. Okay, we're going to talk about our vocabulary words on page 4. We have 4 words today. Our first word is freezing, which is a process when liquid turns to solid. So when water turns to ice when it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit or below, or 0 degrees Celsius or below, water becomes hard and turns to ice. Other liquids also have freezing points. The next word is melting, which is the process of turning to liquid from heat. So once ice gets above 32 degrees, it begins to melt and turn into water, and other metals and elements have different melting points. Our next word is liquid. Liquid is a substance that flows freely like water. You can pour it and fill things. It'll fill to capacity of whatever volume it is trying to take up. And our final word is solid, so firm and stable in shape rather than liquid. So like an ice cube would be a solid as compared to water as a liquid. Those are our vocabulary words for today, so let's begin with our activity. Okay, the next page in our packet, we're going to go to page 13, which is day 5, states of matter, solid, liquid, and gas. Draw a picture of what you know about liquids and solids. It could be something you already knew or something we talked about during the vocabulary words. And then write one thing you know about liquids and solids, and then I'll show you what I came up with in a second. So for page 13, I wrote liquids can freeze and become solids, and I drew a picture of pouring water into an ice tray. I don't know if you haven't seen an ice tray before. You fill it with water and then put it in the freezer. And then if it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit or below, that water will freeze into ice, and then you can crack it and put it into a glass if you want to cool down your drink. So for today's activity, we're going to be making a mixture, and then we're going to determine whether it's a liquid, a solid, or a gas. So what you're going to need is a measuring cup, some cornstarch, and some water, and then a container to mix it all in. The important thing when we're making this mixture is that we have the same amount of water and cornstarch, so that's why you want to have a measuring cup to make sure that it's as close to possible as the same amount. So cornstarch, we're going to do about a cup of this. So I'm going to fill it up to the 1 cup line. I'm going to kind of shake it so it gets even. It's a little bit less than a cup, so I'm going to put more in there just to make sure that I have the same amount of water when I mix these together. Okay, so I've got about 1 cup of cornstarch. Okay, so I'm going to pour my 1 cup of cornstarch into my container. And then I'm going to measure out 1 cup of water. Okay, so now I've got my 1 cup of water. I'll pour that in slowly with my cornstarch. And then we're going to mix this together. It's real sticky, so you're going to want to have a towel or something nearby to wipe off your hands when you're done. You want to try to mix it as much as you can so that water gets absorbed by the cornstarch. And for those of you who've done this before, this is called oobleck. I actually ended up with mine being a little bit too watery, so I'm going to add a little more cornstarch. If yours is too dry, you can add a little more water. But I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. You can tell if your consistency is correct. So we'll keep mixing this up, and I'll show you what it looks like when I have it with the right consistency. So okay, this is just about getting to the right consistency now. It's trying to break up all the dry pockets, so if there's any powder in there, you want to make sure that gets mixed in with the liquid. But it's starting to get real sticky. I've got almost all the powder out of it now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to page 14 in our packet. It looks like this. And we're going to answer the question. So the first question says, what did the oobleck look like? So when I look at it, it looks like a liquid. So I'm going to put down liquid for what it looks like. And then what does the oobleck feel like? I'd say it feels kind of like slimy Play-Doh when I run my fingers through it. And then what does it sound like? We'll see if I can make some sounds so you can hear it. There's kind of some crackling sounds as I run my fingers through it, which is from the air pockets that I'm creating when I drag my fingers through it and then popping those air pockets like bubbles. It kind of feels like gum too, which might be another good answer for the first question, for what does it feel like. So you can see it looks like a liquid because I can swish it around. But then when we get to the questions where it says, what happened when you, if I push the oobleck, so if I go fast, it gets real hard and slows my hand down. So it becomes more like a solid than a liquid. And it kind of feels fun to do. You can see the cornstarch with the water sticking to your fingers and holding onto it really tightly. Try it from the bottom. See, if I pull real hard, it grabs onto my fingers and slows them down. Not like a liquid where I could just run them through there really easily. Okay, the next one says, what happens when you roll the oobleck? So I'm going to try to get a piece of this in my hands. See, it runs like a liquid. It's hard to grab onto. But if I roll it like Play-Doh, back and forth, it's still sticking together and acting like a solid. Okay, if I hit the oobleck, it gets really hard. It's a little sticky. I'm going to try a different angle here so you can see it from the top. So if I try to scoop this up with a cup, it's not like liquid. You can see how slowly it runs down the side. If that was a liquid, it would just immediately go down to the bottom without any clinging it. Same thing when I pour it. It doesn't come down very fast. It's kind of the cross between like a milkshake and ice cream, but it's heavier than a milkshake. So if I try to hold that, and I squeeze it, the harder and the faster that I hit it, the more it acts like a solid, but then as soon as I stop, it goes back to a liquid. So if I hit it with pressure, it turns to a solid, and as soon as I stop, it goes back to a liquid. So the next question says, if I move slowly through, if I go fast, it really fights me. But if I move slowly through it, it's more like a liquid. You can see there's no trails from my hand. But if I go fast, there's trails because that solid, you can see when I go through it fast, it fights against me because it acts more like a solid, where if I go slowly, it doesn't fight against me and it acts like a liquid. So again, if you try to hold it, you can pick it up like a solid, and as long as you keep pressure on it, it'll stay as a solid, but then as soon as you stop, it turns back into a liquid. So if I set my hand on top of the oobleck, it feels like a liquid, but if I hit it hard, it immediately becomes a solid and reacts to that pressure. So have fun with your oobleck, and I'll be back in a second to talk about the one thing that we learned about solids and liquids today. Okay, here's my completed day 5 states of matter sheet. So what does the oobleck look like? Liquid. What does oobleck feel like? It starts as a liquid and becomes solid. And what does it sound like? It was crackling. When you push the object, when you push the oobleck, it became a solid. When you rolled the oobleck, it went from liquid to solid. When we hit the oobleck, it became a solid. When I moved it slowly through the oobleck, it acted like a liquid. When we held the oobleck, it started as a solid and turned to liquid. So when I set my hand on top of the liquid, on top of the oobleck, it was liquid until I applied pressure. And the one thing I learned about liquids and solids is oobleck is both a liquid and solid depending how much pressure is applied. Hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I hope you guys had a great Crazy Chemical Concoctions, and hope to see you next time.